So this is drugs in the Third Reich. So when the Nazis first came to power in 1933, the drug consumption fell because it was kind of seen as toxic, and if you took drugs, you were in favor of the Jews. So by not taking drugs, you were protecting yourself from some, I don't know, it was weird. And if they caught you taking drugs or selling them or whatever, you could be sentenced to prison, and later on drug users were classified as asocials, sent to concentration camps basically. Fun fact, I'm gonna get into Hitler in a little bit, but Goering, he was a drug addict. He was addicted to morphine. Many other top Nazis were. So 1930s, now production started, like late 1930s, started moving towards stimulants, drugs, that were being produced in Germany. And in 1937, Temmler Werke, or how you pronounce that, I don't know, introduced Permittin, which was a stimulant which was methamphetamine based. So quite a strong drug. It was available without a prescription. You could just go up to a counter and say, hey, I want Permittin, and they'd give it to you. They even give it to in boxed chocolates. You could buy chocolates with Permittin in them, because why not? Students used it to come for exams. It was available for to elevate mood, control weight gain, increase productivity. You could just buy methamphetamine over the counter. And in the military, it was embraced as a vanguard on the war and exhaustion, so like to animate the soldiers. Because, I mean, now for example, in 1939, the Wehrmacht, they relied on tank chocolates, methamphetamine. So the chocolates I was telling you about, it was Permittin, and they relied on this to remain alert. The tests that were run during this time and later on proved that the thinking skills declined the longer they stayed awake, which makes sense. Also, the drugs made them stay awake longer, so yeah, it gave them a temporary boost of energy, but it didn't help in the long run. But then in 1940, drug sales to the general public were restricted. I think it was because maybe they wanted to allow for more drugs to be available for the soldiers, so they could have more energy boosts. I don't know. And Temmler, the company I was thinking about, which was the company that started the whole Permittin thing, ordered the production of 35 million tablets for military use. So the drugs were still being produced, but it was, instead of for the general public, it was for the military. But the beginning of the war, I mean, Germany was doing quite well. They didn't invade France, but they still needed energy boost to beat the Allies, because they were still strong, even though they were not. I wouldn't say they were losing at the beginning of the war, but they weren't doing half as well as they would in 2 years' time. And in May, 10th of May 1940, 40,000 army vehicles were in the German border near Luxembourg, and in preparation for an invasion. And thousands of them were giving Permittin to improve their movement and their decision making. Which in the short term, yeah, fine, it works. In the long term, it doesn't. They claimed more land in 100 hours and in the entirety of World War I. So, I mean, you could see how people thought, wow, drugs work. They're good, right? The Germans did claim a ton of land. But think about it. Yeah, those soldiers did that, but would go on to become addicted, and then the performance would decrease, and it would be a whole mess. So there's this, like, you could see Hitler. There's many articles and many documentaries that portray Hitler as being stressed or becoming mad because of, I think he had Parkinson's, which yes, he did, but it was mainly a drug-induced psychosis. It was his lethal tendencies, and his behavior was more because of the drugs than because of anything else. Hitler was in fact a junkie, you could say. His doctors just gave him drugs because, would you dare say no to the Fuhrer? If Hitler came up to you and said, hey, give me drugs, would you have the guts to say no? No, exactly. So they just kept giving him more drugs. This guy, Dr. Theodore Morel, he became the Fuhrer's personal personal physician in 1936. He gave Hitler between 28 and 90 different types of drugs, obviously including Permittin. Permittin was like the main one. I have a list here: laxatives, anti-gas pills, morphine, bodybuilding supplements, digestives, sedatives, hormones, all kinds of drugs. The guy, I mean, no wonder he was just so energetic all the time. He was just, his insides were soaring with drugs. It was, how could the guy function? I don't know. I mean, obviously, towards the end of his life, you could see, people could see, and then it's portrayed in hundreds of movies, how he was very chaotic. You could anger him with just one word. He wasn't doing well, but how did he function with all that in his system? But Nazi propaganda, it said that, of course, they didn't want the public getting hooked on drugs because the Aryan race is too good for that. So they said that Hitler would deny coffee, and he even, there was an alleged story, which I don't think it's true. Hitler, apparently, after the First World War, threw his last pack of cigarettes to a river, and that was the last time he smoked. I don't know about smoking, but that was definitely the last time he took some sort of drug. Definitely. At the beginning of the war, he didn't have serious physical medical issues. He did, like at the end, have Parkinson's, but not at the beginning. At the beginning, he was fine. He came to became more and more dependent, relied more and more on Morel's injections of drugs because he became addicted, and that's it. He just became addicted to drugs, and he could function really well with them. But then, this basic addiction, if you take them away when you're addicted, you can't function without them. So he became really reliant, and he couldn't govern without his drugs. So in the fall of 1941, this was when Hitler's dip in performance became really obvious. I don't know about normal people, because propaganda would cover this up, but generals could see he wasn't doing well. And in the summer of 1943, Hitler woke up in the middle of the night. He was having very balanced stomach cramps. He was basically having a really rough time. Oh, poor guy, right? And more else knew he had a meeting with Mussolini that next day. So he gave him Permittin. No. He gave him Yukido. Yukido is a drug that it's twice as strong as morphine. So Goering was addicted to morphine, but Hitler was being injected with Yukido, which is twice as strong, so imagine how strong that is. Of course, the next day in the meeting, Hitler did wonderfully. He just shouted and was very convincing and managed to keep Mussolini from dropping out of the war. Apparently, Yukido was administered only 24 more times between the summer of 1943 towards the end of 1944. Apparently, I don't know how much that's true, but Hitler he didn't stop taking drugs, even after he was in the bunk. I'm gonna get into that in a bit. So, if you had any concerns to work in the Third Reich and you were partying, they would give you drugs, and you would just say, it's fine, I'm having a good time, it's not that bad, I don't mind working for this very evil man who's killing a lot of people, I'm having fun, and I'm having drugs, it's fun, right? Nope. Permittin, Morel, marketed it across Europe, like over Europe. He built like a monopoly for this, and he had special packaging for their personal dose. And the SS ordered hundreds of millions of tablets, and Nazi trade unions, basically the DAF, they ordered billions of them. So literally almost everyone in the country, not like every single person, but a lot of people in the country were hooked on Permittin, Yukido, Permittin. They were just hooked on drugs, which I guess is the whole point, right? So Morel, and this is a quote, he said, "If I bring out and test a remedy and then apply it to the Führer's headquarters and apply it successfully, then it can be applied elsewhere in Germany and no longer needs authorization." Which I'm gonna explain it now. What Morel was basically saying is that he tried a drug on the Führer. I mean, I'm guessing he tried it on someone before. But if he tried a drug on the Führer and if it worked on him, he's the best out of Germany, so everyone should be able to handle it, right? Basically, Hitler became kind of a test, a guinea pig. He was like tested drugs on. I mean, not really, but I just kind of want to see it that way. Just injected. Oh, this drug didn't kill him. Okay, just market it towards the rest of Germans. I mean, it would be kind of funny, you know? But no, that wasn't how it happened. So studies have shown that 2/3 of those who took crystal meth, so, you know, Breaking Bad kind of thing, 2/3 of those who took crystal meth had psychosis for like the next 3 years, at least. And think about it, that's summer of 1943, and they committed suicide in April 1945. So, do the math. So it became obvious eventually, especially by late 1943, early 1944, the Nazis were losing. They were going to lose the war. It wasn't that obvious to like the people, but for the generals, it was. Sorry about that. So military efforts became more desperate. They're like, I don't want to go down, but if we're going to go down, we're going to go down without a fight. We're not going to go down without a fight. So they took more drugs to have more radical military campaigns, which didn't really work. They didn't have any major victories after. In the last few years of war, no major victories. The whole final solution thing with the Jews, that was because they were losing and they just wanted to eliminate all the evidence. That's the only reason. I mean, also extermination of the Jews, but. So, the last years of the Third Reich, not only by Hitler, but like with other top Nazis, they were marked with just using drugs all the time, only to forget all the destruction that was going on, but also to get energy, because they were losing. Morals couldn't have been high, right? They were obviously losing the war. And by January 1945, which was when Hitler went to the bunker, his condition was very apparent. Anyone who saw him would see this shattered man who just was trembling. He functioned correctly. If you've seen the movie Downfall, how he is portrayed, like just shaking all the time, just sweating, and just being this not frail little man, but weak man, nothing compared to what he was in the beginning of the war. It was really apparent that he was suffering. He was being constantly receiving Yukido injections, like I said. He became hooked on Yukido. And his head painful constipation, seizures, and where's the ball? The British, they bombed the pharmaceutical companies that manufactured Yukido and other drugs like cocaine. So they couldn't produce any more drugs. So that could not have been fun for Hitler. It just could not have been a good thing. He was going through a really, really bad withdrawal, a brutal one, which was worse because he was a leader who gave military orders, and if he was suffering, he would be more radical, and the German people suffered as a result. So, apart from all this, that's like more drugs in politicians and stuff, and in the military. In concentration camps, they also experimented on people with using drugs. There's a lot of experiment, like that's for a whole other video, but experimentation in concentration camps, that was brutal. A company that did this, IG Farben, they're a company who really prospered under Nazis in the beginning because they were backed by their economy. Well, they were the ones that produced the nerve gas used in the camps. And they produced a lot of things for the war effort, as well as helping manage some of these drug experiments. And in 1942, they set up Auschwitz, which was like a small concentration camp near Auschwitz-Birkenau, but not the main camp. So yeah, drugs in the Third Reich. There's many more, I'm sure. I'm sorry about that. There's many more drugs that I haven't really come across. But Hitler, he was portrayed as being this powerful figure that was the perfect German. Sorry. And, but in reality, he was just this guy who was addicted to drugs. That was the only thing that was keeping him going. Because his disease and his stress, it can't have been easy to be Führer of Germany, especially through a war. Especially when you are losing, quite clearly. Many people were rebelling against you. Every other country in the world, not every other country, but most powerful countries in the world were against your regime. You turned to drugs in desperation, and he had already been hooked. Drugs thanks to is it Muller? I forgot the name. Yeah, Morel. Thanks to Morel, Morel had given him so many drugs. He eventually fired Morel, like right at the end, because it wasn't helping him. He was going through withdrawal. He had to space out his doses, and he was still suffering. So he's like, "Hey, Morel, you're useless. You're fired." So yeah. In summary, Hitler was a junkie. He encouraged the military to be a junkie. At first, he did encourage the normal people to take drugs, but then they moved that. Said, "Hey, don't take drugs. Save those drugs for the military." So here's the thing. If you wanted to take drugs, you're addicted. You cannot stand the thought of not living with drugs. You could just join the army. Problem solved. Right? So yeah, I think that's it. Thank you for watching.